The man sprinkled medicinal powder onto a three-headed baby dragon. In the next second, it suddenly expanded in size and transformed into a flying dragon. The king kicked the little dragon away with his foot. The flying dragon's growth was not in body size but in dragon breath. However, the king possessed an immortal body, and the dragon breath could not harm him. Ivan felt immense regret seeing all this. A day earlier, the man had found the divine sword that granted eternal life. Ivan used the divine sword to make the soldiers lay down their weapons. He handed the sword to the demon lord, hoping the demon lord would send him to modern society. However, after the demon lord obtained the divine sword, he wanted to exchange it with the king for the immortality stone embedded in the divine sword. This gemstone was the secret to the demon lord's immortality. The king gave the demon lord a fake stone in exchange. Both divine artifacts ended up in the king's hands. Suddenly a girl pounced on the king, knocking him to the ground. Ivan regained the divine sword, but instead he used it to cut open the tunnel, threw down his weapon, and returned to the modern world. Yet guilt tormented Ivan deeply. He decided to return to the White Mountain Divine Kingdom, but this time he failed. Because of his suspicious behavior, he was caught by the police. By chance he met the sorcerer who helped him. The sorcerer took the opportunity to bring out the divine medicine and told him to find the dragon in the dungeon. Then the sorcerer used his magic staff to open the tunnel. Ivan returned to the magical world once more. The man arrived at the dungeon and found that the dragon was only the size of a thumb. He picked up the secret medicine and sprinkled it onto the dragon's heads, but was discovered and taken away by the guards. The dragon's 3 heads began licking the secret medicine. The demon lord and others were locked in the palace hall. The king looked out the window, waiting for the solar eclipse, so that the immortality stone and divine sword could merge, granting him immortality like the demon lord. The soldiers escorted Ivan into the palace. Ivan challenged the king to a duel, but as an ordinary man, he was no match for the king. At this moment, the king told Ivan the truth about the warrior. 30 years ago, in order to seize power, the king and queen ambushed Ivan's father and took the White Mountain Divine Kingdom. Now with his immortal body, the king could rule here forever. At the critical moment, the demon lord suddenly snatched the immortality stone. Both men knew very well that once the stone was destroyed, the power of immortality would disappear. The king told the demon lord they could share power, but only if Ivan was killed. Yet the demon lord was ready to perish together. Suddenly the queen threw out a giant axe, severing the demon lord's arm holding the stone. Ivan used a silver needle to pierce the king in pain. The demon lord controlled his severed arm and threw the stone back to himself. With one sword strike he cut the immortality stone. The demon lord and the king began to vanish. The queen hurriedly escaped from the castle. Without the queen's curse, the petrified people began to return to normal. The White Mountain Divine Kingdom welcomed a rare peace. However, the queen suddenly arrived in the modern world, plotting an even greater conspiracy.